In this video on simplifying, we're going to be looking at multiplying and dividing algebraic fractions, which you'll see is exactly the same as multiplying and dividing normal fractions. So in the first part of this video, we're going to be looking at multiplying and dividing normal fractions first, and then use those exact same methods to work with the algebra. So starting with multiplying fractions, the step for doing this is to multiply the numerators by each other and then the denominators by each other to give us our new fraction. Now remember that the numerator is the number on top of the fraction and the denominator is the number on the bottom. So with this first fraction of 1/4 times 2/3, we're going to multiply the numerators first, which will give us 1 times 2, which equals 2. And then we're going to multiply the denominators together, which is 4 times 3, which equals 12. Now we have actually correctly multiplied these two fractions together. However, our answer is not completely simplified. You'll see that 2 and 12 have a common factor. That's a number that multiplies to make both 2 and 12. Our common factor here is 2. 2 goes into 2 and 2 goes into 12. So what we need to do is divide both 2 and 12 by 2 to turn it into 1/6. Now this is exactly the same amount. However, we're using smaller numbers, which means that it is actually simplified. So when a question asks you to fully simplify your answer, you'll be expected to go to this step here rather than just 2/12. Now with division, it's almost exactly the same as multiplying. However, you need to flip or invert the right-hand fraction here first, then multiply them together. So I'm going to rewrite this problem here as a multiplication problem of 1/4 times the flipped right-hand side fraction, which will be 3/2. Then it's just going to become 1 times 3, which is 3, and 4 times 2, which is 8. Now 3 and 8 don't have a common factor because 3 is a prime number. So we can't actually simplify this anymore, so we're done. Let's look at some algebra. So multiplying here first, the exact same steps should be followed. So we're just going to multiply our numerators together. So that's 2x times 3x. And then on the bottom, y times y. Now from our previous video, we already know how to simplify something like this. So bringing our coefficients together at the front, we get 2 times 3, which is 6. And then x times x, which is x squared, all over y squared. There's no common factors here of any of these, so we can't simplify it any further. With the division, we're going to flip or invert the right-hand side fraction. So that's 6p/q times q/2p. Multiplying this now gives us 6pq over 2pq. Now notice here that I've rearranged the order for the bottom part, the denominator. It doesn't actually change the value. It's still exactly the same because multiplication doesn't, when you change the order of multiplication, it doesn't change anything. However, I've put the coefficient in the front as per usual, and I've also put the variables in alphabetical order. It helps when it comes down to simplifying and gathering like terms together. So it's a really good idea. Now we can actually cancel out some terms. Notice that we've got p there and p there, they cancel. Q and Q also cancel. And then 6/2, that's just 3. So our final answer is actually just 3. Lastly, this one looks a bit more complicated. We'll start by writing it as a multiplication problem. Flipping the right-hand fraction, we get 2y squared over 3x. Now let's multiply through. So 8 times 2 is 16, x cubed, and then y times y squared will be y cubed. All over 3 in the front as our coefficient, x squared and y. Now let's look at simplifying any of these terms. 16/3, we're just going to leave that because that can't be simplified to a smaller fraction. However, we can simplify our x's there, so I'm actually just going to get rid of that and rid of all of that, which will just give me x on the top. And then we're left with, that will turn that into a 2. So let's write that a bit more nicely here. We get 16/3, still with x on top, and y squared. And we're done. Thanks for watching.